Okay, so it is recording. I'd like to start by saying good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and thank you for coming to our presentation. So give me 1 second to get started.
Fabian.
All right.
Catherine. Alicia.
1 second. All right, are we ready?
Nancy.
Oh.
All right. So we're going to start this evening's presentation with a quote from Nelson Mandela. It says, "History will judge us by the difference we make in everyday lives of children." So good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the PQA Program Quality Assessment, Part 1 of our pre-service for this program year. Our portion of the pre-service will discuss understanding the purpose and what is assessed in the PQA. And this section will also hit the learning environment and schedules and routines. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, Matrix Head Start, we assess the PQA in the infant, toddler, and family child care programs. The PQA was developed to help caregivers, administrators, and other program staff assess the strengths of their program. It helps to determine what areas of the program could use improvement, and it also helps everyone to discover what constitutes a quality child care program. Now, the PQA has two domains of measurement. There's a Form A and a Form B. In Form A, we are assessing the learning environment, schedules and routines, adult-child interactions, and curriculum planning and observation. In Form B, the PQA assess parent involvement in family services, staff qualifications, staff development, and program assessment. But in Matrix, the EHS-CCP program, we only use Form A to assess our programs, and those assessments are completed by the child development specialist. So when we come into the classroom to do the PQA, we are recording evidence that we see. So this slide is really just explaining the type of evidence that we record when we come into your classroom. So the assessor will record what he or she hears happening in the classroom during the observation using level indicators. We take anecdotes, which are brief notes on what children and staff are doing and how they communicate with one another. We write quotations, so we write for quotes what children and staff are saying throughout the observation and the learning environment. We record materials available in the classroom, as well as the materials that are available for the children to use. We draw or take photographs of the learning environment, noting area placement, materials, space availability, and the like. We also assess the sequences of the day, so your daily events and routines. We look to see if you are following your daily schedule and what routines are in place that are familiar with the children. And we record your answers to the clarifying questions. Those clarifying questions assess the responses the caregiver give to specific questions regarding schedules, interactions, routines, and the curriculum. So on this slide gives us examples of evidence that has been recorded by an assessor during a PQA. So I would like to call your attention to this bottom section here, because I think that this gives more of a complete picture of some of the evidence that it can take place in the classroom. And I think it's a good example of evidence that was recorded during the PQA session. So as we take a look at this sample of evidence, I'm
دانيال
sorry.
رايح معك على الدولار 3.
Excuse me, if you can mute yourself.
بدي دواء جالي بدي دواء جالي وبدي هيدفون. كل يوم بتقولوا لي لبكره.
1 second, you guys.
اعطيه مصاري هو بروح بيجيب لي وبيجي. وبيعطيه لدانيال خليه يجيب لي ويجي.
All right, I'm sorry. Can you still hear me? Oh,
Yes.
thank you. All right, so here in this piece of evidence, we have C1, which represents child 1, and the A represents adult. So in this piece of evidence, child 1 pulls the adult's hand over to the block area. The adult says, "You'd like to work in the block area? Which blocks should we use?" The child walks over to the shelf and starts pulling off unit blocks. The adult says, "You're choosing the unit blocks." The adult observes the child's building, then starts stacking blocks with the child. And I wanted to call your attention to this piece of evidence because I wanted you to see that as we are recording, we're recording everything. So we're not just recording what you do, we're recording what you say. And in this example, the teacher was not only engaging with the child, but also helping to develop their language skills. Because the child was just walking and pointing and manipulating blocks, it was apparent to me that in this piece of evidence that the child may be a young toddler or one who does not use a lot of verbal communication. So in this example, the teacher was helping that child to provide verbal helping that child, excuse me, to develop their language skills by asking, identifying the types of blocks, and then joining into that play. As opposed to this piece of evidence here, A1 refers to adult 1 and A2 refers to adult 2. It says that adult 1 and adult 2 passed out stickers at the end of the day to children who were good. So I wanted you to understand that anything that takes place in that classroom, we are recording. We're going to record what you say, what the children say, and the things that you do. So all types of evidence will be recorded as we are observing in your classroom. All right, so here on this slide, I'd like to call your attention to what an assessment sheet looks like in the PQA book. So this is just one sheet that is from the PQA book. At the very top, you will see the domain. This domain is the learning environment. Underneath the domain is the item that is being assessed. And in this example, it is item E1, well, 1 meaning learning environment, but 1E, children's photographs and creations. So this is what is being assessed. Below that are the level indicators, a level 1, a level 3, and a level 5. So on all PQA pages, there are only 3 level indicators, a 1, a 3, and a 5. Now, underneath these level indicators can be several rows of evidence that is being observed. So just on this sheet, it is 2 rows, but as you can see down at the bottom, it says continued on to the next page, which indicates that there are several other rows within the item IE that are going to be assessed. Towards the end of the column, the very last column on the row is where you're going to, or where the assessor or the child development specialist in our instance will record the evidence that they see taking place in the classroom. And then at the very top, across from the learning, the domain and the item, you will see the scores. So this is where this item will be scored. And keep in mind, even though for this example, it says a level 3, there are other roles that are within item E that are also being scored, all right? So when you are looking at your page in the PQA, you want to make sure that you notice where you are, what domain you're in, and what item is being assessed, and then look at the rows and the level indicators, okay? So we'll go through this page kind of quickly. So for row 1, we are looking at, again, photographs and children's creations. Row 1 says there are no photographs of children or their families hanging up or in albums. A level 3 states that there are photographs of some children and or family members on display where children can see them. And a level 5 indicates that there are photographs of all children and family members for children to not only see, but to touch, hold, and carry. So when an assessor comes into your classroom, this is what they're looking at. This indicator row is going to tell them what they need to look for. Underneath the indicator row, sometimes you will get examples. These examples are here to guide the assessor as well as you as the classroom teacher as to what the expectations are for this row. So as we take a look at this row, we can see the evidence that was recorded says there were pictures of the children in the classroom, but not any family pictures. The pictures of the children were on the walls around the room at children's eye level. So when we look at this evidence and we look at the indicators in this row is scored a level 3. It is not scored a level 1 because there are pictures of the children. So we will skip this row altogether because it is evidence that supports that children's pictures are in the classroom. When we look at level 5, it also states that there should be pictures of family members in the classroom as well. And as we see in the evidence, there were no pictures of family, just pictures of children. So this row would be scored a level 3. If we take a look at the second row, it says displays consist of adult-made or commercially produced materials that are not related to the children's interests. For example, this one gives examples: calendar on the bulletin board, posters of toothbrushing, fire safety, behavior or discipline, and alphabet people. For a level 3, half of the displays in the classroom are adult made and half stem from children's interests and experiences. For example, some displays of children's creations such as finger paintings, collages, and colorings. Other displays of standardized content such as flowers and butterflies to announce spring, alphabet letters with pictures representing each letter. And a level 5 says that almost all of the materials in the classroom of the adult-made displays stem from children's interests and experiences. Displays of the children's work, pictures of photographs of the classroom pets, children's family members, or classroom activities, and the bulletin board for parents with the licensing policies, construction paper, balloons, with children's birthdays. So all of those things represent the children. You have to have those policies and things on the board, but there's still some children information on that parent board. So when we take a look at the evidence here, it says that there are children's art creations on the walls and sides of furniture, the shelves. there was a display of commercial alphabet midway down the wall. So if we look at the indicators, we can recall from level 3 that it says alphabet letters and pictures representing the letters of the alphabet. And so because of that, this row was scored a level 3. So although there were children's creations displayed in the classroom and at their eye level, there was also commercial alphabet. So the reasoning behind this is that, you know, most children naturally are not curious about the letters of the alphabet. Most often it is adults who are interested in having those letters of the alphabet and things of that nature posted in the room. However, if you want to, if the children show interest in letters, they'll be able to do that, because recall, what you should recall is that in your classroom, in your learning environment, your materials should be labeled. So chairs, tables, the shelves, things of that nature, you've labeled everything in your classroom. So because those things are labeled, they are, they're letters of the alphabet, they're words. And so if children naturally come up and they ask you, what is this? What is this? What does this? What does this say? Then you can have a discussion on the letters of the alphabet. But overall, having the letters of the alphabet in your room is not stemmed from children's interest. It's usually stemmed from adult interest. All right, so I wanted to call your attention to this particular assessment page, because at the very end of the assessment page, there's an example of a clarifying question here. So we're still in the learning environment, and we're in item D, which talks about materials in the classroom. And here in the very last row, there is a clarifying question, and below that is where your assessor is going to write their evidence. And this clarifying question says, how often do you rotate materials, and how do you determine what to rotate? So I want everyone to understand that when there is a clarifying question that your assessor is asking you, they're going to record your response to that question, in addition to also scoring this particular row and what the expectations are for this row. So when we take a look at this row, this is row 3, and it's talking about the materials for exploration in the classroom, and are those materials accessible to the children throughout the entire day. So when we look at the evidence in this last row, it says that the teacher said that they change materials every month for the children. So this is answering that clarifying question as to, do you rotate the materials? Then the caregiver also said that they choose the materials that they are rotating randomly. All right, so that's what the assessor wrote down, exactly what the teacher said. And then underneath there is the evidence for the row. And it says that the materials for the children were at their level where the children can reach them, and the children could reach the art materials, the blocks, the puzzles, and all of those things. They were all on the shelf where the children can reach them, and all the areas of the classroom were open to the children. So when we take a look at the evidence that we see in the classroom, when we're observing, along with what is the response of the teacher for the clarifying question, we combine what they say and then we score. So if you take a look over here, this evidence scored a level 3. And the reason that this evidence scored a level 3 is because of the teacher's response to the clarifying question. And her response said that they choose the materials randomly. So therefore, there was no rhyme or reason as to what materials they're rotating. They just decide which materials to rotate. So if the teachers had talked about rotating materials based on children's interests, or rotating materials based on the plans that they have in the classroom, or they notice that the children use the same materials all the time. They hardly ever use these materials, so they pull those materials out because they're not of interest to the children. Then they could have scored differently on this particular question, because everything else that they have here would have scored at a level 5. So make sure that when you are prepping yourselves for your PQA, for your classrooms, that you always look at the clarifying question. And when you look at those questions, you can determine how to answer that best fits what you know of the high scope curriculum. So please always pay attention to those clarifying questions. And also I want to call your attention to the examples underneath. Most times, all of the rows the majority of the rows will have examples. And again, those examples are there to kind of guide you as to what the expectation is. So if our goal is to score at a level 5, you really want to pay attention to the examples underneath the level 5 and how responses, if they give examples of responses that teachers would give, pay attention to those things, because these are the things that can help you to improve your PQA score. All right, so here I want you to, again, we're talking about the evidence that is given. This time we're in schedules and routines, and we're talking about the daily schedule, that the daily schedule either flexes or it does not flex throughout the day. So the level 1 indicator says that the daily schedule is the same for all children. For example, children are kept awake when they are falling asleep before nap time, or all children make transitions at the same time. A level 3 indicator states that the daily routine sometimes flexes to accommodate the children's individual needs. For example, a caregiver brings out a cot for a child who has fallen asleep during choice time. Children line up all at the same time to wash their hands for breakfast and lunch, but take turns brushing their teeth and going to the bathroom during choice time. So you can see what the expectation here is for a level indicator 3. For a level 5, the daily schedule flexes throughout the day to accommodate each child's individual needs, rhythms, and temperament. So because Grace was hungry, Grace got to eat her lunch. When she was done, she was able to lay down on her cot and go to sleep while the other children still ate or was getting cleaned up for nap time. An infant begins to cry earlier than his scheduled feeding time, so the caregiver gives him a bottle. At nap time, some children went to sleep right away, while others looked at books until they fell asleep on their cots. Caregivers overlapped activities to allow children who are finished with an activity to go ahead and start a different activity while they waited for the other kids to finish up. So in these examples, you can see that the caregivers or the teachers in the classroom were a little more flexible with the schedule, allowing some children to do things, finish up or get started. They did not hold back the entire class or wait for the entire class to finish something before they moved on. So when we look at the evidence here, it says that all the children followed the daily routine together. And I put an arrow all the way over here to level 1. Which said all the children moved together at the same time during the day. Sam said snack to his teacher, and Ms. Jones told him we'll eat shortly. So even though Sam indicated that he'd like a snack, his teacher told him wait. And then the last one that says children were able to use the bathroom as needed. So whenever a child indicated that they needed to use the restroom, they were able to do that. So this evidence here, it represents all the levels. Really, it's really representing level 1 and indicator level 1 and indicator level 5. All right. So in this instance, whenever you have evidence that represents an indicator level 1, you can never score a level 5. So just understand that. If you have anything that indicates a level 1, you're either going to have all level 1 evidence over here, or the mixture of the two is going to bring your scoring down. So even though the children can use the restroom as they wanted to, Sam could not have a snack when he was hungry, and all the children moved throughout the day at the same time, other than the restroom. All right, so we're almost done with this section of the presentation. I'd like to just call your attention to this assessment summary sheet. Many of you are already familiar with this sheet if you have participated in a PQA assessment in your classroom before. I just want to explain this sheet briefly so you can understand clearly what it means. So as you take a look at this assessment summary sheet, you will receive this at the end when the PQA is completed for your center. It has all of the domains on here, the learning environment, schedules and routines, the adult-child interaction, and the curriculum. Underneath those domains are the items within that domain that were scored, okay? So if we're taking a look at item A, safe and healthy learning environment, all the rows that was under item A, the score for all of those rows are indicated on this blank in front, okay? So I hope that you all understand that. As we take a look at F under the learning environment, you will see that an NR is indicated. NR means that that item was not rated. Okay, so if we look at this sheet, we have an NR under the learning environment for F, and there's also an NR for schedules and routines, nature-based outside time. So what this says to me is that the outdoor environment and the outside time for this particular PQA was not scored. And I'm going to assume that it was not scored because if you look up here, the test was in January. So it was probably either extremely cold outside or a ton of snow outside and on the playground. So any item that is not scored or not rated is not held against you. You can see over here to the right, my right, it says that the number of classroom items not rated. So those two items, F in 1 and H in 2, schedules and routine, was not rated. There were 23 items rated and the score of the 23 items was a 73. The average for this classroom is a 3.17 because 73 divided by 23 is 3.17. Also down here at the bottom, it shows the average for each section. So for learning environment, there was a score of a 3.0. Also for the schedules and routines, a 2.5. 3.5 for adult-child interactions, and for knowledge of curriculum, a 4.25. So if you have participated in a PQA before, any item here within these, the items underneath the domains, if you score a 3 or below in any of those item numbers, then in any of these items rather, then it requires an action plan. So on this next page, this is an example of what an action plan looks like. I just want you to know that this particular action plan does not support the page that we previously saw, that summary sheet. This is just a different example of an action plan. So on the action plan, you will see the domains across the top. You will see an area of focus, proposed actions, the person responsible, a completion date, and follow-up, any follow-up and or follow-up dates if necessary. So if we take a look over here at the area of focus, we have 1 being in the learning environment, and then the item D. So when I take a look inside of my PQA book, 1D is materials for sensory exploration are plentiful and accessible to infants and toddlers. So that is what this item is. When we look at proposed, so this indicates that in this particular classroom, they scored a 3 or below for item 1D. The proposed actions for this classroom is to provide real materials, real items in the classroom, allow children easy access to their personal comfort items, provide musical instruments that are accessible for the children's use daily, provide more materials, pictures or books of non-stereotyped role models and cultures, and to label all materials and containers in the classroom. So as we look at the rows that were scored, the evidence for this item, these are the areas that needed improvement for that row, which is the reason for a score of 3 or below in this item. If we take a look over here, the persons that are responsible for these proposed items, making sure that there are improvements in these proposed items, are the provider or center director and the teacher. And we indicate the provider because it indicates that there needs to be more materials, real materials, varied materials in the classroom. So the provider would be your source for helping to provide the necessary materials for that classroom. We also indicated the teacher because it is the teacher's responsibility to make sure that once the materials are provided in that classroom, that they are accessible to all the children and that the materials in the classroom are labeled and put on the shelves so that they are labeled and put in their containers and placed on the shelves. In the date completed, so what happens when you receive this action plan, you and your child development specialist review this together, meaning the teacher in the class, the teachers in the classroom and the child development specialist, and you'll have any discussion that is necessary for understanding what these proposed actions are. Then the child development specialist, along with the teacher, will set a date to come back to the classroom, a date that they can agree upon, to come back to the classroom to observe if these proposed actions have taken place in the classroom. If those proposed actions have taken place in the classroom, then a date completed saying that if those proposed actions were satisfied by the child development specialist, a date will be placed in this section of the action plan. If the child development specialist comes back and none of the items or only some of these proposed actions have taken place, then they might come to the follow-up column over here, state that some of the actions have been satisfied, others have not, and that she may come back out at a later date to check to see if these items or proposed actions here have been satisfied. Now, the final thing on this action plan that I want you to understand is, although you are receiving this action plan and the expectation is for you to make an effort to satisfy these proposed actions, once these actions are satisfied, it does not change your score for your PQA. I just want to make sure that you understand that. It does not change your original score. However, what it does is indicate that you have made an effort for improvement. And then all of these documents will be kept with your child development specialist. You will get a copy, and then your child development specialist will keep these documents in their center documents for your center along with the education manager. So we can say at a later date if there's any discrepancy that you did make an effort to make improvements for those proposed actions, okay? But it does not change your PQA score, unfortunately. All right, so we also talked about very quickly that this portion will talk about the learning environment. So I just wanted to show you a very quick video about organizing your learning environment. All right, 1 second, take this laser pointer off. 1 second. Uh-oh. Oop, I made a mistake, guys. Give me 1 second. All right. I hope you can see.
It's important to organize your space and materials for independence, easy use, and learning. Let's take a look at a few ways teachers organize infant and toddler classrooms to meet these 3 goals. Notice this child found what she needed and got started playing right away. Why did this happen? Because the materials are stored on low, open shelves that children can access themselves. Children can see what's available and make their own choices. Labeling containers and shelves not only helps children access toys and eventually clean up independently, it provides a print-rich environment that can help build children's early literacy skills. Also, when children can engage independently with materials, you have more time for interacting and expanding learning opportunities. Materials that are similar or materials that are used together in certain activities should be stored together. You should set up your learning environment such that children and adults can easily find the materials they need. Finally, materials should be organized so children want to interact with them. Your classroom materials should reflect the diverse backgrounds, knowledge, interests, and experiences of young children and their families in your classroom. Take a look at these centers and notice how they spark or build upon children's interests.
All right, Emma, let's see how long yours is. Put your ruler down. What color is this ruler? Blue. Blue. Azul? Azul.
Can you identify the ways this teacher incorporated multiple learning goals into the block building area?
This one.
That's my bear.
Me. Or do you want to build a castle?
The castle.
A castle. Okay. Let's build a castle and then we can measure how tall it is. Get some blocks.
Boss?
A well-designed learning space will keep children engaged in appropriate play, learning, and help prevent undesirable and unsafe behaviors.
Sorry, guys.
Easy use.
Sorry. 1 second. Okay. So hopefully you could see some ideas from that slide and help you get a better understanding of organizing your classroom and how to make sure your materials are accessible to the children.
Okay, good evening again, ladies. I'm Janice Dawson. For the ones that do not know me, I have been a child development specialist for quite a while. So now we're going into schedules and routines. The daily routine should start off predictable yet flexible, enough where children can still have choices.
Oh, she's so fine.
Arrival and departures. Make sure you are greeting parents and children by name once you get to know the names. be sympathetic to the attachment that children and parents have.
Sometimes.
Displayed during arrival and departure. Establish a morning ritual. Due to COVID-19, some centers may not be allowing parents to enter the classroom. However, under normal circumstances, parents would take their coats off and wash hands.
All right, Janice.
Yes.
1 second, I'm going to go back and make sure that I've muted everyone. So you're gonna have to unmute
Yes.
when I show
I'm
you that
unmuted.
slide.
Okay.
Okay. You're gonna have, because I'm gonna mute everyone again.
Okay.
And just unmute yourself.
Okay. So next week, choice time. Choice time should always be a part of the day. Children will pull out materials from a variety of areas they choose. Children can be free to take items from one area to another. Also, when you allow children to express the movement from one area to another, it increases their self-awareness, self-esteem, self-respect. It also gives them opportunities to engage with other children during this time. So at this point, we're going to take a poll just real quick. So if you notice down below, you have down there that says participants. If you open that up, you're able to click on true or false. The question now is, during the day, is it necessary to accommodate all children's needs? You either gonna answer true or false. I'll give a couple minutes. Okay, so I see that the response was 96% said true. That's absolutely right, because all children have different needs. And they want different things, different items, or different material. Okay, now we have bodily care routine. Before diapering, let the infant or young toddler know you need to change their diaper. If the child is engaged with an item, allow the child to complete the task. Maybe choose another child, letting them know you'll come back for them in a minute. Be mindful to encourage children to do things for themselves, but be there to support for a child that may need it. Also, get a crying baby if you just snatch the toy and say, come on, it's time to get your diaper changed. Okay, transition. During this time of COVID-19, we strongly suggest not using songs for transition because we don't want children's bodily fluid, like saliva, coming out while singing because it's common and they'll be standing so close together. Be transmitted to others while singing so close to each other. During large groups, social distance occur, so that would be fine. Children should be allowed to clean up in their own manner. For instance, a child may want to fill a dump truck with blocks, then carry it to the block area. feeding at mealtime. Due to the COVID-19, children will not self-serve. Teachers will serve themselves first. Then the teacher will ask, what would you like on your plate? Example, would you like some green beans? Once you have asked all the children at the table, then you'll pick up the next bowl and ask the same question. Group time. Group time should focus on children's interests, ideas, and actions. Group time gives children the opportunity to explore, have choices, communicate, and express their own style. During all group time, children have their own materials or supplies. In addition to that,
Oh, no. Oh, Janice, can you hear me?
Yes.
You froze. So can you repeat your addition to that?
In addition to that, if a child isn't interested in materials, teachers should have other materials or items available to choose from.
Okay.
Nap time. During nap time, if you have a child that does not want to rest, provide a quality activity at the cot or table. Infants should be allowed to nap at any given time, or even a toddler that appears to need rest, allow them to nap or rest. Also, we must realize when children are kept awake to follow a schedule, they may cry uncontrollably and or become cranky. Therefore, it's going to create an environment of chaos. Sometimes when one child cries, another will cry also. Now we have another poll. Okay, so this poll is nap time. It's necessary to pick children who awake out of the crib when they are not crying. Is it necessary to pick them up once they are woke out of the crib, even if they're not crying? Is the answer true or false? Get a couple minutes, a minute to answer that. Okay, are you guys ready? Okay, I see it seems to almost be like a tie. So the answer is yes. You should pick that child up out of the crib, because for one thing, the baby could be wet. The baby also needs to be able to explore, put a blanket down and just let them lay there peacefully. You don't want to wait till the child actually starts crying. That's not a good sign. That way, if they're down on the level floor, then maybe you can attend to another child that may really need you and they're not crying. So the answer is true. Outside times. When outdoors, teachers should provide materials for children to use. Children can play anywhere on the playground so they can explore natural items as well. Teachers should include a blanket for infants' tummy time exploration. So the bye-bye buggy is nice, especially if you're taking a walk. But if you're outdoors and you're like on a playground, you can have a blanket out there. They don't necessarily have to just sit in the bye-bye book. Give them the opportunity to maybe sit down or lay down low where they can see the grass and feel the breeze, things like that. Okay, we have another poll. This poll is about the pictorial schedule. Okay, a pictorial daily schedule must be displayed in the infant classroom. Is that true or is it false? I'll give you a minute to answer that. That's that high scope form that runs along the wall that talks about what happens from time to time to time. Is that necessary in the infant classroom? Okay, are you ready? Okay, I see that the poll answers is 78%. The correct answer is false. The reason that you don't need a pictorial schedule is because the babies, and particularly in the infant room, are really, really on demand. They cannot follow a schedule first place, and all children may not even come in at the same time. So therefore, it's not necessary in the infant room only. No pictorial schedule.
Okay, everyone. So we have talked about the assessment. We've looked at the assessment pages, the level indicators. We talked about evidence. We looked at a video regarding organizing the classroom, and we've learned about schedules and routines. We've gone into a little detail about schedules and routines. So now I'd like for us to do a really quick activity on scoring. See how well you can score. So in this activity, you will view a few pictures and score each picture at a level 1, a 3, or a 5. As you view the pictures and listen to the description, please put in the chat box your score for the photo that you see. If you would like to share your reasoning for the score, please raise your hand. And it's my understanding that if you go to the participant screen, you can raise your hand from the participant screen. So I'll be looking at the chat box as well as the participant screen and see who would like to share their response, and I will call your name out. If I call your name out because you raised your hand to share a response, you can unmute yourself and share that response. After you shared or discussed what you wanted to say about the picture, please mute yourself again. All right, are we ready? Okay, so before we take a look at the picture, I'd like for you to see the levels. And if you have your PQA book with you, we're looking at page 30. If you don't have your book, it's okay. So once you see the picture, you're gonna score it a level 1, which indicates children's arrivals and or departures are rushed and or abrupt. You're gonna schedule it a level 3. Children's arrivals and or departures are sometimes rushed and or abrupt, or a level 5. Children's arrivals and departures are leisurely. All right, so we're gonna start in just a moment. I'm opening up the chat box so I can see your scores. All right, are we ready? Uh-oh, wait 1 second. Me and this, manipulating this screen. All right, here we go. So in photo 1, we have Johnny, and Johnny is waving bye to his mom from the window of the classroom. Would you score that a level 1, a level 3, or a level 5? You can put your answer in the chat box. All right, and Miss Wanda Wheeler, you can unmute yourself and you can share your response. Miss Rhonda? No? Okay, so Miss Rhonda, she rose her hand, but maybe she's not able to unmute herself. But I can see in the chat box that most people have scored this a level 5. Does anyone like to share? You can unmute yourself.
Sophie,
Please tell us who you are.
Sophie, احكي عم بحضر الكلاس.
Oh my.
What happened?
Okay. We'll move on to picture number 2. Here in picture number 2, Olivia is crying as her dad leaves. She's grabbing her teacher's legs. Her teacher does not pick her up. Would you score this a level 1, a level 3, or a level 5? You can put your answers in the chat box. All right, I can see that most of the participants are scoring this a level. Now, I see some people that are scoring a level 2. There is no level 2. It's either a level 1, a level 3, or a level 5. And if you would like to share your answer with us, please, I think you're able to unmute your mic and you can share, tell us who you are, and you can give a response for your score.
Hi, my name is Aida, and I want to share why I scored at level 1. The reason I scored at level 1 was because the child looks very upset, like visibly upset, and she doesn't want her dad to leave, I guess, or her mom, whatever it may be. So that's why I scored at level 1.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. Did anyone score something other than level 1? Perhaps level 3 or 5, and you would like to share? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next one. In this photo, Peyton waves bye to her mom as she passes Peyton off to her teacher. Her teacher tells Peyton, "Tell mommy bye, have a good day." Would you score this a level 1, a level 3, or a level 5? And if you would like to share your response, you can unmute yourself and share your response with the group.
You sound so much British accent.
Hello? Uh-oh, that may have been a mistake. All right, so as I can see from the chat box, most people scored this a level 5, and I would agree with that.
Mama, lower the TV. I want to hear the lady.
All right, so this is our last and final photograph. And this is a photograph of Miles. And Miles is crying as his mom leaves for work. His teacher picks him up, consoles him, and tells him his mom will be back at the end of the day. Would you score this a level 1, a level 3, or a level 5? Okay, if anyone would like to share their response, please do so. Please. Please.
Please explain your number 3, someone, level 3.
Okay, I was saying, I think level 3 because he looked like he's very upset because his mom had left and he didn't want her to leave.
Okay, well, I'll just say this. The reason I feel like it's a 5 is because she is really trying to console him. And that's as much as she can do in the standpoint of being a teacher. So she is being very sympathetic to him, even though he is crying. Would anyone else agree with that?
Disagree.
All right,
Or
Ms.
disagree.
Hayes, can you explain your disagreement?
I picked number 3 because mom didn't have time to pretty much calm him down and reassure him. So I felt like her departure was kind of rushed because she had to leave. So I would pick a 5 if, you know, mom was able to calm him down and it was like a much calmer transition.
Okay. I understand that.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
2 devices up because one I can't hear. But I said 3
Feedback.
because I felt like she should have been more understanding, try to understand his feelings instead of just saying, well, she'll be back at the end of the day, but kind of understand why he's feeling the way he does. Oh, I understand your mother left and you're upset.
Yeah, I think it's your volume level.
Okay, because I was on 2 devices, I just closed the other device.
Okay.
So what I said was I went with 3 because I felt like she could have been a little more empathetic about how he was feeling and kind of say, I understand you're upset because your mommy has left, and not just say, well, she'll be back later.
Okay. Very
Okay.
good.
Okay.
All right, everybody. So how you feel about scoring? Not so easy. But again, you're basing your score off the evidence that you receive. So I think Miss Michelle, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name, but Miss Michelle, last speaker, with the evidence that was given, the mom leaves and the teacher does pick him up and says that your mom will be back at the end of the day. You know, the teacher did not acknowledge his feelings in that. And because of that, Miss Michelle scored it a level 3. All right. So any questions you have later, we can talk about them as we continue. We continue the presentation. All right.
Miss Kim, can I ask a question? This is Miss Carter from Ready to Learn.
Hi, Miss Carter. Can you write it down, or is it?
It's pertaining to the scores, and I'm driving. I'm sorry. That's why I just want to chime in right quick.
Okay.
Wouldn't the teachers be scoring according to what the teacher does, not necessarily what the parent does?
Yes, you are scoring. When we come in, the assessor is scoring the teacher and the interactions that's happening in the classroom. classroom. No, you do not score the parent. You will not be scoring what the parent does. You will be scoring what the teacher and that child, their interactions. If the child seems rushed into the classroom, you know, despite the fact that the parent has to leave, there are some things that that teacher can do. And just like Miss Michelle, I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name, but just like she indicated, there are some things that the teacher could have said to the child to help console him more. Yes, she did acknowledge his feelings by picking him up, but she could have had more of a conversation with him. And again, the other thing that I'd like to call your attention to, because this is on the slide, I wasn't able to put up all the examples, but again, in your assessment book, they give examples. So make sure you're paying attention to the examples. All right, I hope that answered your question, Ms. Carter. All right, so we're gonna take a very quick look at a video that kind of sums up schedules and routines.
Feeding routines are special moments when caregivers can spend quiet time rocking and holding young infants. For toddlers, meaningful routines can affirm that they are capable of doing important things for themselves. There are many characteristics in the following routines that highlight the responsive care of the caregivers.
And bottom, top and bottom.
The caregiver describes what to do while washing hands, incorporating a song in the daily routine.
Now they're clean.
The caregiver highlights that after washing hands, she is going to feed her.
Germs all gone. Bye, germs. See you later. Oh, right hand to look at your bottle. Are you ready? Yeah, I know. Oh,
Notice how the physical environment supports this routine, offering a clear pathway from the sink to the rocker and providing a calm, safe space to provide individualized feeding.
Okay, let's put your bib on. Yes, I know. Here we go. Yeah, we're gonna make sure you eat. Okay, here we go.
The caregiver holds and rocks the infant while feeding her a bottle. This routine helps support a strong relationship between the infant and her caregiver.
I was going to feed you and give you your bottles.
This special time offers individualized, responsive care, which helps infants to feel safe, valued, and cared for. Partnering with families to facilitate routines with toddlers in your classroom will increase opportunities for development and reduce anxiety. Having cubbies near the sign-in supports autonomy for the child to put away their things and also gives families just a little more time together to adjust to the classroom environment. Notice how the environment is set up to allow for caregivers to have meaningful interactions with children before and during the meal. Many sinks in this environment allow for multiple children to accomplish washing their hands at once. A song to accompany this hand-washing routine could help these toddlers' autonomous engagement, offering an auditory cue and reminder about how long to wash, or even the steps in hand washing. The caregiver describes what the children are eating and characteristics about the food, like that it is cold.
Hey, that applesauce is nice and cold. If you want some more milk, let me know.
The caregivers are using multiple ways to communicate with the infants and toddlers in their classroom by speaking verbally, using sign language, and also using Spanish to identify the foods and their needs.
Elena está tomando leche. Milk? Leche? It's nice and cold.
This routine helps children identify things in their world and gives them an opportunity to communicate about it.
Would you like some more apples?
This is a calm, safe space for family-style dining where a child can explore their autonomy yet have supportive relationships from their peers and teachers.
You You like apples?
When you encourage toddlers to participate in routines like pouring or serving, they become more self-sufficient and take pride in their attempts and accomplishments. Routines and schedules help foster healthy development and build self-confidence. This is just one example of a responsive routine with toddlers. How does your learning environment support responsive schedules and routines for the toddlers in your care?
Thank you.
All right, so that was just a quick video that kind of sums up the schedules and routines. So we're nearing the end of our presentation, and we want to reiterate at this point how to ensure the best possible score for your classroom. So the ways to ensure the best possible score is to become familiar with the PQA assessment booklet, including the instructions. Read the indicators for each level and clarifying questions. Look at the examples that are given under the indicators to determine if they exist in your classroom, and you want to modify to obtain the best score. Understand that the assessor is recording evidence of what is seen, heard, and interactions between teachers and children and the co-teachers. The assessor is assessing you, the classroom environment, interactions happening in the class, and your knowledge of curriculum. They are not assessing the children. All right, so that is it for our presentation. We will take some questions. We have a few minutes for questions. If you have a question for us, you can unmute yourself and pose your question.
Thank you all for participating. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you gain some knowledge from this.
All right, so are there any questions for us? Okay.
All right.
Well, all right. Well, we thank you for coming to our presentation this evening on part 1 of the PQA, day 2 of our pre-service. And we hope that you gained some information that was very helpful to you in helping you to understand, for one, what takes place when the PQA is happening in your classroom, as well as some information on how to obtain the best possible score for you, the co-teacher in your classroom, and your overall classroom when the assessment takes place in your room. So if there are no questions for Ms. Janice and myself, Kimberly Murray, we thank you and have a good night.
Have a great one. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the next one. Goodbye.
Yes, tomorrow is part 2 of the PQA. And again, it's at 7 p.m. So we'll see you in there tomorrow. Yay.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. I'm so happy that you all were there. I really appreciate it. And we miss you all.
Yes, a whole lot.
You guys. Can't wait to see you.
Bye, Miss Kim. I enjoyed the training. I learned a lot.
Oh, thank you, Miss Bostic. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Oh, will you be sending the pre-recording from yesterday?
Well, yeah, if you attended yesterday, I believe Miss Viandria, once all the sessions have been recorded, she's going to put on our Matrix CCP YouTube page.
Okay. Would you be able to send it to my email address?
Yes, it'll go out to your email.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Miss Dawson.
Bye-bye. Good to see you guys.
All
Have
right.
a good night.
Have a
You
good
too.
night.
Bye now.
Hey, I think I was in the wrong session.
Why
Was
you
I-
say
Oh
that?
my God, Miss Willis.
Yes, I think I was supposed to be, me and Maya was supposed to be in the one for the homes. Donna had called me and she said, we're done. I'm like, done. I was like, what?
Well, they have recorded it. I'm sure Andrea has recorded that. So mistake. So, you know, just let her know.
Yeah.
Okay, so was there anything different that I should have been doing, or I didn't know how to get into the other one? I just thought it was one.
Oh no. Well, the one for the home it's a little
A
bit
little different.
The domains are pretty much the same, but your questions and the roles and the indicators are
Okay.
different because it's a home setting.
Correct.
So it's pretty much the same type of information, how to score the best, look at your examples and things.
Okay.
But it was geared more towards the home child care center versus the daycare center.
So
And
will
the
it be the
scoring
one for
is-
the homes tomorrow? It'd be one for the homes, like different?
Oh, tomorrow is part 2 of the center.
So that's why I'm telling you to go with Miss Andrea, and she can make sure that you get the recording. The difference in what we did in scoring today, yours was different.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
okay.
look at the recording tomorrow. I'm sure that you'll be satisfied with both sessions. Well, I was good.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for coming to see us.
I enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. We was like, okay.
I'm glad. It wasn't a waste of time.
No, it wasn't. We good. We good. We good. Well, we supposed to
Okay.
sign in, or don't worry about signing in for me and
I
Maya?
would say don't worry about, because once she gets the attendance for ours, she'll see that you are here with us.
Right.
Okay.
And
All right.
I'll send her a text message too.
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, I won't see y'all tomorrow. I'll be in the right one tomorrow.
Okay.
But it was nice seeing y'all.
Okay. See you later. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. So I'm going to end this session, Miss Dawson, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. I think we did.
Yes,
pretty good.
ma'am. We did okay. All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Good evening, everyone.